Little friends of Jesus, the nobleman's son. Now in Capernaum there lived a little boy who was very different from all the little friends of Jesus who played down by the seashore. For first of all, this little boy did not know Jesus, and then his father was a nobleman, and he lived in a big house which was very grand. But although he was so rich, the little boy was sometimes lonely, and often, as he heard the other boys and girls shouting and laughing by the seashore, he wished he might join them in their games. He had all sorts of toys to play with, and plenty of room to run about in his big house and big garden. But he liked best of all when he could go down to the shore and sail his little boats, or else go and watch the soldiers as they marched and drilled. Sometimes he was taken down to the harbour and saw the fishing boats and the bigger boats that brought food and all sorts of other things to Capernaum. But he liked best when he saw the king's ship, which was very grand and very lovely, go sailing proudly past. He liked to see this ship because it was lovely, but he liked to see it also because he knew that his daddy would be on it, for his daddy went everywhere with the king. The happiest days of all were when his daddy could come and stay with him in Capernaum, for then he had someone to talk to and someone to play with. But one time, when his daddy came home, he found the little boy did not want to play at all. He was tired, his head was hot, and all his body ached. All he wanted to do was lie down in a cool, dark room. The nobleman hoped he would be better in the morning, but when morning came, he was not able to get up at all, for he was very, very ill with fever. Doctors were brought at once, and they did all they could for the little boy, but as the days went past, and they tried everything to make him better, it was all of no use. He got worse and worse. Then the king's doctors came, but even they could not help him, and the poor father was told that his little boy would die. Near his bed were some of his toys, some of the boats he liked to sail. Now his daddy lifted them very sadly and shook his head as he thought his little boy would never sail his boats again. That night, as the nobleman sat by the little boy's side, one of the servants came and spoke to him about Jesus. "He has made so many people well, sir," he said, "and I'm sure he could help the child." "Send for him," said the nobleman, who did not know Jesus. "Everything must be done to save my child's life." Quickly, 2 of the nobleman's servants hurried into Capernaum. They went to one house and then another, asking where Jesus was. "Oh," said someone, "don't you know he's not here?" "Not here," cried the servants. "Then can you tell us where he is? For our little master is lying very ill." "You will find Jesus in the village of Cana," said someone standing near. "I saw him there today." The servants hurried home and told their master where Jesus was. It was too late now to do anything that night, but the nobleman told his men to have his horse ready very early in the morning, and he would ride to Cana and find Jesus for himself. So next morning he mounted his horse and rode away as fast as ever he could. Cana was more than 20 miles away, and the road lay high over steep hills. It was a hard road for that horse, but he seemed to understand why his master was in such a hurry, and he pushed on and on, long after he was tired and out of breath. At last they reached the top of the hill, and there, quite near, the nobleman saw the little village of Cana. He had made up his mind about what he was going to do, so first of all he rode to the inn. There he jumped off his horse, and calling to a stable boy, he told him to look after his horse and feed him, as he was very tired. Then he asked the master of the inn if he could tell him where Jesus was staying. Everybody knew, for the crowds had followed him every day. So in a very short time, the nobleman was knocking at the door of the house where Jesus was. "Oh, sir," he cried when he saw Jesus, "please come down to Capernaum and heal my little boy, because he is very ill." Jesus stood for a moment, looking at the nobleman, and the poor father thought that he was not going to come. "Oh, please come," he cried again, "before my child dies." Then Jesus saw how very, very dearly this father loved his little boy, and he was sorry for him. "Do not be anxious any more," he said in his deep, lovely voice, "for already your little boy is better." This was so wonderful that the nobleman could scarcely believe his ears. It seemed far too good to be true. But he looked into Jesus' face, and it was so strong and true that he knew he could believe him. So he said a very big thank you and went on his way, happy that his little boy was no longer ill. He went back to the inn, and there the stable boy came to meet him. "I hope, sir, that you do not mean to ride back to Capernaum today," he said, "for if you do, you will hurt your horse. He cannot do any more until tomorrow." "Then I shall stay until tomorrow," said the nobleman. "There is no need for me to hurry home today." Next day he found his horse rested and ready for the journey. The road was much easier this time, for it was all downhill, and he knew he did not need to hurry. So he went on slowly, thinking happy thoughts and enjoying his ride. When he came near home, he saw some people hurrying out to meet him. When they came nearer, he saw that they were his own servants, and they were waving as if to tell him some great good news. When he met them, they cried out, "Your son is better, sir. He is quite well again." "When did he get better?" the nobleman asked. "Yesterday, just about 1 o'clock," they answered. A look of great happiness came over the nobleman's face. "I was sure of it," he said. "That was exactly the time when Jesus said he would get better. I knew I could believe him." Then he rode on faster towards the house, and when he was quite near, the little boy himself came rushing out, looking just as well as could be. "Oh, Daddy, Daddy," he cried, "where have you been? Look, I'm all better. Come quick and play with me." "Come first," said his daddy, "and let me tell you where I have been, and how it was that you got better yesterday." Then he told him about the Lord Jesus, and how his love had made him better. And from that day, the nobleman and his little boy, and all his servants, became great friends of Jesus.